Hello, my name is Mero, and this is the Beginner's Guide for Super Benbo Quest Turbo Deluxe. This is the updated version with all the new tricks we found since the last one came out. You're going to notice I'm playing on version 1.01. This is not the newest patch. However, all the tricks I'm going to be showing in this video will work on any version. Before we start, there's a couple things you're going to want to know. The first is that if you're playing on keyboard, I would highly recommend going to the most current patch because it has the ability to dash with shift instead of having to double tap the keyboard, which will help out in a lot of places. The second is that if you were to mash the jump button in the air, you descend much slower, and if you're going forward, it allows you to cover much more distance than you normally would. The third thing is lag. This game is going to lag a whole heck of a lot. It lags in different sections on everyone's PCs. It's something you're basically just going to have to work around. It happens to everyone, so just be prepared for that. You can try to reduce it. And one thing I'd highly recommend for controls is mapping the F2 key to a button on your controller. For the sake of this run, I have it mapped to the select button on the input cam, which I've unmapped from pause. And as a reminder, double mapping two inputs to the same button is not allowed on speedrun.com, or for our leaderboards, rather. So one input per button, but you can remap to pretty much whatever you want. So with that said, time is going to start when we choose New Game, and we'll get right into it. 3, 2, 1, go. So the very essential speed tech for this game is what's known as a spin boost, which looks like this. Now what that did there is that I turned around while spinning in the air with no input on the D-pad. That's important that there's no input on the D-pad, because what that does, it amplifies the knockback you get for colliding with an enemy, and then adds it to your base movement, which you then keep until you lose whatever dashing speed you have. And it's crucial for getting through the run quickly. It is pretty tough to learn. I do have a whole video on the subject which you can check in the description. But again, do keep in mind that it's pretty tough to learn. Like, you can get that many on one enemy, but that's pretty advanced, and this is a beginner's guide after all. So you're going to want to learn to spin boost in certain scenarios, but as you're starting out, you don't got to go crazy with it. Like for the starting segment here, I'd recommend just spin boosting off of that guy to get around him easier. You can go underneath this one bouncing red outline dude the same way, and it will still work. As long as you turn around and you're not holding anything on the D-pad when you land, it'll work just fine. But again, you're just going to want to make your way through here. If there's an enemy that you don't think you're going to be able to spin boost over, you can do a full hop dive kick to either defeat them or get around them. At least these big guys. The bouncing skulls, you're going to have to just... You'll figure out the movement patterns as you go along, for the most part. They move pretty predictably. But again, if there's a spin boost you can't get down, don't worry about it. Just either jump around him, or just try to avoid him. It's no problem. Just like that. And you can get spin boost off of most enemies. It works better on some than others, which I do cover in the spin boost video. But that is the general idea of it. You're also going to want to know to hold down the jump button to get a higher jump, which is a platforming staple, but it's really important for this run in a lot of places. Now this spin boost here is actually pretty interesting, because you got to be in a very specific position when the run starts. Or when the room starts in order to keep your spin boost speed as you go over this guy. So I'd actually recommend, even if you're just starting out, to try to spin boost off of this Gunman here, just because it's very, very simple. It's really, really easy. He stands completely still. He doesn't attack until he's on screen for a good number of seconds. So you can just run right past him. And then you can either full hop dive kick to get around the outline guy, or you can try to spin boost off of him. The great thing about spin boosting off of big enemies like that is that you'll just go right over them, which means you don't have to worry about having to hit them 3 times or anything. And then up here, you're going to want to run up, do a couple jumps. Again, those guys don't start shooting till a certain time has passed when they spawn. So what you're going to want to do is wait for the first set of shots, wall jump and dive kick to get down there. Just do this. Once your character is over this brown platform, you can dive kick to save yourself the time of having to slowly fall back down. And it will also take care of the enemy for you so you don't get shot a second time. Just like so. And then when you run off here, we're going to be falling for a great distance. And the fastest way to fall great distances is with the dive kick. So just do that. Now this outline guy can be in a bunch of different places when you start the room. Sometimes he gets stuck in there, sometimes he's out, sometimes he gets stuck in the blocks that the gunman was standing on. It's all over the place. Yeah, full hop dive kick. You see there that he's on this side. If he's in your way, you can either dash punch around him, full hop dive kick, or try to spin boost. But do keep in mind you'll lose most of that speed when you hit the wall. So it's not necessarily worthwhile. You see there he's stuck in the other blocks now. If this happens, it's usually pretty good for you. Just because you don't have to worry about that at all. I was dashing there because while I already had the speed, I can use the sound to kind of figure out when I need to jump there for the spin boost. Like you see there, he's out. It's fine. If you get one spin boost off of that guy, you are able to double jump, or not double jump, rather dash punch through this door without having to stop. And then in this room, if your health is low, you can pause and die to refill your health. And it's better to do it in this room than the upcoming room, because that room can lag, and loading it more than once means twice the lag. And again, you can spin boost off of him if you really want to. Like, that's what I meant about the lag. Like, the game drops to 30 FPS for a second. It drops frames. Like, it's just stuck on that one explosion for a little bit. Like you see there. Not great. And so if you were to die in this room, for instance, you would have invincibility, which is great. So that red outline man here, you can either try to spin boost off of, which for some reason doesn't work all that well, for whatever reason. Like, if you're not positioned right, you will take damage and lose your speed. And then, whether or not you get that spin boost, there's a gunman down here, which you can always hit very easily. You're going to want to spin through these 2 rows of blocks, especially this one up here, because not only will your spinning destroy the blocks, it'll protect you from the projectiles should you get caught in a bad cycle of them. Which means less damage, you get to keep more of that speed for longer. And if you time your spin just right, you'll be able to break through both bottom blocks, which means you can just keep running. Now when you get down here, it's very important that you full hop somewhere in this range. And then wall... Alright, I'll show the whole thing one more time. The full hop down here is actually going to cause an outline guy up there to spawn earlier, which means he'll get stuck in a wall so we don't have to deal with him. Normally that thrower there isn't as high up, so if you go through it normally you won't have to worry about him, but since I'm pausing to try to talk about it, it slows down a little bit. But once you get over here, you just wall jump once, wall jump twice. If you need to wall jump more than once to get up here, it's fine. If you time your wall jumps well, you can get a little bit higher with each one. And you can get even more distance if you let go of the jump button and tap it again a couple times. Yeah, you can see there that this guy is just stuck in the wall. No harm to us. There's a pretty advanced trick that I'm obviously not going to go over in a beginner's guide involving this, but that's just something for a later date. Now what you're going to want to do here is wall jump here. You're going to get hit by this guy, but it's okay because there are hearts right there. And the knockback you receive will actually push you up just enough to get lifted onto the platform. So if you have 1 health, you're going to have to look out, but otherwise you'll be fine. Again, wall jump, jump up here, If you get hit, you get hit. Then just kind of... You can't wall jump off of semi-solid platforms like that, so you just kind of run up and turn around. You saw there that my jump was a little bit early, so I was on this section of slope, which means I couldn't have made it. And yeah, you saw there the thrower missed us just by a hair. But then when you're through here, we have reached the first section. If you need to, there's an invisible checkpoint above this tree. So I'm gonna just get that right now. Alright, and then if we were to pause and die, we'd be right here. Thank goodness. So that's platforming basics out of the way. Now we're gonna start the Gunman 1 fight. Now this fight's actually got a really good quick kill to it. You run over here, let him hit you, and then you just mash standing punches in a very specific rhythm. And what happened there is that we were able to turn him around over and over, which prevented him from starting his attack, and allowed us to just take him out really easily, no problem at all. And when you're entering this room, it's helpful to do a dive kick so you'll move a little bit faster, because the cutscene will take away any landing lag you would have from the dive kick. And one of the benefits to playing on controller is that you can match with all 4 shoulder buttons, because you get 4 options to dash, which means you'll be able to mash through this text much faster. I normally use my index and middle finger on my left hand for these 2 triggers on the right, then my index finger on the right for these 2 here, and then I rotate my thumb around the face buttons in kind of a circular motion. So one more time. Didn't dive kick there, which is slow, but it gets you there all the same. Again, run over here. When you get hit, you can start punching. As long as you're back against the wall, it should work pretty well. I'm going to try to show what happens if he gets out, because sometimes the trick just won't work. A lot of this game has stuff that's pretty inconsistent, so you got to keep that in mind. Like, say you're misspaced, you're down here. I can't get it to not work, really. But yeah, it's inconsistent, but in a way it also makes it much more lenient. Really? And generally speaking, if you punch slower, you'll have a better time. So if you punch too fast like this... That's not what I meant. And also, you're going to want to keep away from the jump button, because if you jump, you're going to wall jump, and that's not going to be very good. Alright, you see there that he broke out. Now, if this happens, you're going to have to go chase him down. But if you're able to trap him in the corner there, you can just rattle off a dash punch and take out a ton of his HP. And there is a chance that you can clip into him while dash punching, which allows you to perform the quick kill in a different way. And if you have low health and this happens, just try not to go over there. Like, once you defeat him, you're going to just want to run all the way over here, because then it's going to be the next part of the fight. But I'll show it one more time. Run over here, take damage, then just start standing punching. If you're doing it at about this rhythm or a little bit slower, you probably won't have him break out, but if he does, you can try to stay over to this side of the wall in order to get it on the next part of his attack. If you take damage twice and still get the quick kill, it's absolutely fine. So that's this segment out of the way. Now down here, you're going to want to jump and dive kick. Then you're going to want to pause right around here, right when your character falls to this brick over here from the top. You can see there, I'm right in front of it. The middle... Hold on, I'll pull something up. It's the middle brick there that will help you out. But once you're in there... Also, if you're trying to pause and die, you need to do it while paused and then unpaused, because if you just press F2, it's not going to work. So what that allowed us to do is skip most of the cutscene. So any point when you hit this brick up here, the one I'm jumping at, you will be able to save about 40 seconds just by skipping the cutscene and just advancing to this point. So for this phase of the boss, you're going to want to run to the right, and you're going to want to jump in the air and mash standing punch while full hopping. He has 2 attacks that he can do. One is the shotgun there, which obviously is not good. And then he'll drop these red skulls on occasion. I'm actually going to pause and reset so I can keep talking about this fight. He always starts with the red skeleton heads attack. And that one's a good attack for us because not only can you take him out really easily while you're right here, you can also get hearts from them, which can help if you get a lot of guns. But in the event that you have no HP and you have to kind of avoid one of the guns, it helps to just move very slightly while trying to maintain your position. Like there I got hit, but here and here. Sometimes he'll do both attacks at once, which is basically unavoidable damage. It's unfortunate, but it just kind of is what it is. So again, you come over here, you jump in the air, and when you're close to him, just start mashing standing punches. Or not standing punches, aerial punches. If you use the dash button, you're going to spin, which is not good because it's going to knock you away. But don't start using the punches until you're near the arch of your jump. You can see there we got hearts just for bumping into one. So if you get damaged and then grab a heart, it does help to kind of abuse iframes if there's a lot of firearms in your way. But that there's the fight. Pretty easy once you know what you're doing. Can be kind of a toughie for newer players, but it's fine. And then once that's done, you just mash through all the text. Couple seconds of cutscene, and then moving on. And you're going to want to mash through all this text here as well. So this level introduces what you can see as the second major movement tech in the game, which is the super jump punch, and it looks like this. You see there that a dash punch was performed while rising, which you can't do in most situations. But if you press jump and punch while dashing on the same frame, you'll get the lowered gravity of a dash punch. Let me show that right here. Like, look here. When we fall off this platform, we kind of fall much slower than we normally would. Which is something that you don't normally get a lot of use out of since you can't cancel the jump punch into anything, or the dash punch into anything. And you just kind of fall a little bit slower. But if you were able to rise with this momentum, then you get a much higher jump with the hitbox of a dash punch, which is going to be really, really useful. Now, it is frame perfect, but don't let that scare you away. It's much similar to the way a cruise boost would work in something like Battle for Bikini Bottom, where it's just 2 buttons on the same frame. It's very, very easy to learn. As long as you can get something that feels comfortable with you, then it's fine. There is going to be a lot of applications for this boss, or this move, especially in this level. So it is going to be something you're going to want to learn and get used to. But don't worry if you can't get them all the time at first. Like, I've been running this game since it came out in March, and I haven't gotten them all the time either. Like, I still lose runs to this thing. So as you're coming through, you're going to want to spin these higher blocks and then jump up to this wooden platform. Because that car guy there that just crashed into the wall, he's going to keep chasing you and cause a ton of damage until he touches a wall. So you're going to want to take care of him without much worry there. And then up here, you can do a super jump punch to get all the way up. Or if you're not able to get those very consistently, you can run over here and wall jump up. That is going to lose you about a second, so... And since it's so early in the game, this would be fairly good practice for the SJP as well. Oh yeah, SJP is the abbreviation for Super Jump Punch, so if you hear me say SJP, I'm referring to this. So that's what you know I mean. If you're able to get them consistently, you can get... You can get 2 in a row here, to get all the way up here. Which is pretty intermediate level. And again, it only saves a few seconds, but in a game that's only, you know, less than an hour long, a few seconds here and there will add up fast. There's normally an enemy there. I don't know why he isn't. Or if you can't do the super jump punch twice in a row, you can get just as well by wall jumping. And something about this wall jump in particular, you have to press the dash button again so you can spin through the blocks, because for some reason, when you wall jump, you're faster than walking speed, but not at dashing speed. So you saw there, I did an aerial attack, and it was the punch instead of the spin, which is not good. There's normally an enemy here. I don't know why he's not showing up. Like you see there, this is a jump you can't make without the SJP. There he is. Now, you're going to want to stall yourself in the air by some way. You can either super jump punch, or you can wall jump. And that'll get you up to this platform a little bit faster. And then once you're up here, you're going to want to jump to the right. You're going to want to have rightwards momentum as you're entering, for this reason. You saw there, not only did we keep it while this cutscene started, but then we also move forward towards these blocks during the cutscene, which is a little bit of extra movement for basically free. So once that's done, you're going to want to make your way over here. Pretty standard stuff. Now this guy here is really good for a very easy spin boost. It only saves a little bit of time, but there's almost no risk for doing it. If you're moving straight through, there's no chance he's going to attack you, so it's absolutely fine. Saw there, I didn't break the block properly, so he's going to keep bugging us. But even if that happens, you can land on the wooden block and or the wooden platform, and you're normally alright. Now, one thing I haven't mentioned about the jump glide ability that we apparently have. I mean, it's not explained in game anywhere, but it's something we have. It can only slow your descent. If you start mashing while trying to jump, it'll just start your descent and then it will slow it. So it's really, really important that you hold out jump for as long as you can. And again, this particular jump you cannot make without a super jump punch or running over here and wall jumping. It's only a couple seconds. And then again, you just do 2 wall jumps off of these. 2 wall jumps off of these. If you see that he's shooting there and you think you're going to take damage, you can try and turn around. And you'll get the set backwards momentum, which can get you up onto the wall. That enemy isn't showing up for some reason. I think it's if you wait a certain amount of time, he won't show up, or something like that. Like you saw there, I got the wrong direction for momentum. But run up here and take damage, and then go to the right while running up here. And then mash through the text. Let this cutscene play out. Everything should be fine from here. Now sometimes the bouncing skull can show up in this area, like that just did. If that happens, there is not a whole lot you can do. Advanced runners will try to get a spin boost off of him, which only saves a second or so. But if you're just starting out, either try to avoid him or just spin through him the normal way. And jumping up here. If you're going fast, as you cross these throwers, you can full hop and then kind of glide over them in order to not get hit by their bones. Like you see here. You're able to make it just fine. You normally don't need to grab these emergency hearts down here, but I'm just grabbing them for the sake of the run. And again, going through this area is a little bit slower because you can't just immediately wall jump. But again, just come up here. Whether or not you hold the direction you're trying to go doesn't make a huge difference. But generally speaking, you're going to want to be able to hold the direction you're going all the time anyway. So even if you were to just sit in this tube and mash wall jump, it's better off to just get used to holding your direction. And then gotta reload the room because they all despawned for some reason. There we go. And there we are. We should get to the edge of the blocks for this cutscene. And again, sometimes he can cause issues, sometimes he doesn't. And then again, you full hop and kind of glide over these guys and you can take care of them. If you're just starting out, I'd say avoid this outline guy by waiting in this little crevice. It's only a couple seconds and it guarantees safety. And then in this room, I'm going to pause and die to refill my health. Now, this room has two ways to do this first area. You can do a super jump punch, but for whatever reason, this super jump punch just sometimes doesn't work. Like you saw there, we did the trick the same way, and we didn't make it. But other times, you can do the trick and it'll work just fine. But if you don't want to risk not having it work, just come over here and do a wall jump, or just go over there and turn around. So this beam shooter is actually pretty annoying. You don't have to worry about him too much, but what he is able to do is destroy these TNT blocks over here, which means if he touches them, you're gonna have to try to deal with this weird-ass platforming. Like you see there, now all the blocks are gone. If you're standing on them, it can be, you'll either take damage or sometimes you'll just get stuck in between two blocks and you're gonna have to jump out. So just keep in mind that's something you're gonna have to deal with. Now, if you're fast and you get up here before the outline man is out of the way, if you're just starting out, I'd say just turn around and let him pass through you. And then if you really need the safety, there's a heart down here you can grab, which will also let you avoid the other outline man. And you just come up here and wall jump. No problem. Now over here, we take a damage boost to get up here to get past this beam guy, because he takes a really long time to take care of otherwise. And then once you're down here, you will dive kick once, fall through the platform, and dive kick again. This lets you avoid some enemies. So I'm gonna do this whole room one more time. There's the super jump punch. I'm gonna grab the emergency heart. You saw there, it's just way easier to deal with because you can't exactly get past this guy all the time without taking damage, so just accept the damage and just use it for forward momentum. Now, in the event you, for whatever reason, fall down these holes, fear not. There is an alternate path. It's a smidgen slower because you have to spend all this time in a tube, but you can still make it. The platforming, rather, is pretty tight, so you gotta be careful. And if you fall off, you can save yourself with a wall jump to get back to safety. And the timing for this is pretty lenient. So, like, as long as you're near a wall and you hit the jump button, you will get the wall jump off. So if you miss by a hair, you can save yourself. And if you're very close to the top, you can wall jump once or twice and then dive kick. And you can see there that saving yourself is definitely the way to go, because starting over from the beginning of the room is going to lose you a bunch of time. You saw there I was able to actually get a spin boost off of the Skellyman there. Sometimes he gets hit by the lasers, sometimes he doesn't. You can also try to get a spin boost off of the outline man, but it'll more often than not get you sent into the spikes. So just let him pass it by you and you'll be alright. One thing about the spin boost off of him, though, is that if you're high enough, there's no chance you can take damage, which is pretty nice. Like, he doesn't have any hitboxes or any attack patterns to worry about, just the TNT. Again, take this damage. If he fires a beam in this general direction, you can kind of jump to avoid it. You're going to want to wait on the dive kick, though, just because that's not... It's going to get you hit by the beam, and then you're either going to land here, or worst case, you're going to land in the lava down below, and that's not going to be very good either. Again, jump and dive kick. That can happen as well. That's not spectacular. You gotta space your dive kick out properly, because it sends you at a very strict angle. And it's just really, really precise. Now the actual dive kick here isn't super strict, but again, it's only one angle you can go at. I'm gonna try to show it off again. Alright, I can do this. And you saw there, like, I was barely past the wall, and we were able to get up here with a wall jump and a dive kick. If you time a wall jump just right, you'll be able to keep that momentum, or keep that vertical movement going. It's not fast, but again, if you're about to fall in a pit, it is safer. And you're going to want to jump down here. Yeah, in the event you do hit the wall, you'll probably land down here, which is fine. Just come over here. Let the outline guy pass. There will be a thrower here most of the time, which you don't have to worry about. Now this bouncing skull is actually pretty sneaky, because while you're dealing with the gunman or the thrower, oftentimes you'll get hit by the skull. So if you're on low health, just play it safe. And once you're in here, we're onto the lava raft. And in this one particular room, if you need to refill health, it's quicker to run over here and then dive kick into the lava instead of having to pause, because for reasons unknown, it takes, like, when you reload a room for the first time, it takes a little bit in order to pause, which means you are not able to get through it as fast, as opposed to just running over here and falling in the lava, just like that. And then you are going to want to dive kick onto this raft once you have enough HP. You're going to want to run over here. Oh, whoopsie daisy. And there's actually 3 ways to get over this pit. And I'm going to show all 3 of them. First, you defeat this guy, and you jump glide, and it'll get you over here, and then you can just continue on without the raft. Now, if you've played the game casually, which, if you're going to run it, I assume you've beaten the game at least once, then you will know that this is supposed to be an auto-scroller. But thanks to the jump glide ability, we can make it over this pit with no problem at all. And that's a little bit slower, but you can get over there the same way with a spin boost. And you can maintain the spin boost by hitting other enemies as well. You're going to lose most of that speed around here, either with a dive kick or a dash punch. Then you can get a spin boost over here. Now, if you're going fast and you take damage here, it's actually better to just run through the lava instead of having to worry about missing a jump. Because if you have the iframes, you might as well use them. Again, here's the no spin boost version. Oh, forgot to take care of the enemy. This is actually, I'm going to show the 3rd version, which is a damage boost. Sorry, this is the damage boost. It's a little bit slower, a lot less consistent, and it makes your health a lot scarier to deal with in this room. But in the event you need to do that in order to get through, like you don't have the ability to mash very fast, then that is still a way to do it. And any of those versions will be fine for getting through here. As long as you're getting to the end before the raft does, you're going to be saving yourself some time, which is perfectly acceptable. And again, do any spin boosts you feel comfortable with. Like, these ones over here, I don't always do in my own runs. You can just kind of dash punch, you can dive kick through. And then just do that. If you aren't spin boosting, though, I'd highly recommend dive kicking down these pits. Again, you're going to take some damage. Didn't have enough iframes. That is why when you have damage, you're just going to want to run through. Oopsie daisy. But you can see here, there's a lot that you have to kind of worry about on the fly. Like, most of these things are scripted to show up as you run through the screen, but like minute differences in your action can throw things off crazy amounts. And you see there, if you jump too early or you don't mash hard enough, you will not be able to make it across. So if you can't mash fast enough, you can either use the spin boost version, which requires less mashing, or you can do the damage boost. And if you're really low on health, you can come over here and just wait inside his hitbox. And then just run over here and jump glide. And you should be able to make it just fine. Now, this enemy here can be pretty nasty. So if you really need to, you can wait for him to back up and fall into the lava. Or you can do what's known as a spin... Or you can do a dash punch, or you can do what's known as a spin roll. As you spin while landing, you'll still be able to perform the spin attack, but you'll be on the ground and the knockback will be reduced. So if you just need to get through somewhere, it's a great way to do it. But the dash punch will guarantee take him out. As long as you use it back far enough on the platform, you won't fall off. And if you do fall off, you can always just wall jump back up. Now these jumps here are actually very precise. Like, you gotta full hop, you gotta wait till you're on the edge of the platform or you're not gonna be able to make it. Then once you're down here, you dive kick through, wait for these guys to get taken care of, come up here, and then dive kick to blow up all this TNT. Depending on your setup, this can lag the game an awful lot. But for now, we're fine. And if you get damaged by one of these enemies, you have about a second of iframes that you don't have to worry about them. And something to note, the lava down here doesn't actually hurt you. So even if you're down here without iframes, in this one particular section for whatever reason, you'll be alright. And then just bust up those blocks. Take care of that. Now we're on our merry way. Now for this section, you're going to want to just mash standing punches toward the right edge of the raft, because there's a lot of blocks that if you don't punch through, you will die. Obviously don't punch the dynamite, and make sure if you're going to jump off early like that to actually jump. I did not there, unfortunately. Again, you can see if you were to fall off at any point, it would be like a big old time loss. There again, you can usually you can spin into him and that'll knock his projectiles back into him, which one-shots him. But it's not a big deal one way or the other. Now there is a very precise super jump punch you can do in this area to get up to the loading zone faster. I did mine a little early, so I'm going to show it again. I guess I'm not going to show it again. But if you get to this area and you were to die, it does set your checkpoint for you. But if you were to stay on the raft, for instance, you'd be over here. And then you could super jump punch. You could super jump punch to get all the way up here a little faster, instead of having to run all the way to the left and then jump up and come all the way to the right. But if that's going to be something you're going to struggle with, I'd say just jump off around here and then just go through the old-fashioned way. So you at least don't have to cover the same directions twice. And that's the platforming. Now, not only is the super jump punch good for platforming, it's also great for certain types of combat, because it still has the dash punch's hitbox. And this boss is a great example of that. And you're going to see here, between the super jump punch and the dive kick, you can demolish his health bar really, really quickly. And I'm going to pause there to start the fight over. Now, each of these heads counts as an individual hit. And you're able to take out all the heads at once with the dash punch. So it's much, much easier than just having to go and deal with them the old-fashioned way. And again, I'm going to restart the fight. You'll usually get a whole ton of hearts at the start of this fight just for running through all the skulls, but if you have low HP, you can just start the fight over by pausing and dying. And again, once you're in the air, the fastest way down is to use a dive kick, which also will destroy all the heads. And if you can't super jump punch, you can still get most of the work done with dive kicks. And then once the heads all scatter, you can run into them with a dash punch, take out a lot of them in one shot. But it is helpful here to learn the super jump punch, get used to the feeling of it, develop some muscle memory. So the time it saves will be really, really big. And he's going to fire off one more skull. It's going to come this way. That's good. Then once you defeat the last skull, you got to mash about 10 text boxes away. Then this delightful little cutscene shows up. And then you have about 50 seconds before the next level starts. So you can split anywhere in there as long as you split at the same time. I usually split at the moment he turns into squares, but that's just me. You can do whichever you like. And so now that we're done with the underground and the first level, we're on to the airplane, which is a very, very scary level when you're trying to do it fast, compared to playing it casually. Because this level doesn't have wide open spaces like the first level, and it's not vertically oriented like the underground. So you gotta be really careful when spin boosting here. Like you see there, that was pretty tricky platforming. And the actual timing to get the boost off this guy is not spectacular. And then to actually jump off these little platforms is pretty tough. But this is something that will get you a little faster, or through the level a little faster. But again, if not, you just do it the old-fashioned way. As long as you keep moving, you shouldn't have to worry about the beam shooter. Now that plane that ran by, from the left side of the screen, it shows up at a fixed interval. Like if you had, like, it's been so many frames since you died, it'll show up. And it does act as a wall, so it'll cost you your spin boost speed, if you have any, or it'll stop you in place if you don't. Then there, you can either jump over this guy, or you can... I'm just trying to show it. And you saw there, getting stuck in the plane caused us to get hit by the beam. So if you want to wait it out on that first platform for a second, you can usually do that. If you can help it, you're going to want to stay on the higher segment, just because you can continually go to the right instead of having to come down here and wall jump. Because this, it's doubling over on the same movement, and that's not fast. But it's only a couple seconds, so if you need to do that for absolute safety, go ahead. But again, you can either spin boost, then take a low segment if you really want to. Couldn't quite catch him. And there you see, this is probably intermediate level jumps to get over here. You're pretty much guaranteed to take damage in one way or another, just because there's so much going on at the same time. And the planes will always show up at fixed intervals from one side of the screen to the other. And it's just something you're gonna... I don't know the actual numbers, but it's always the same timing after a death. But once you do that, come over here. You can either spin boost around him or do a full hop or a dive kick. You can get a spin boost off of that guy really easily. But it is likely you're going to lose it around here. Because in order to get around the thrower, you'd have to do a big jump. And if you hit this section of wall here, you're going to lose all that big jump speed. And there are hearts down here if you need them, so just dive kick on down. Wall jump up through here, and you'll be able to get up here. If you are over here, I'll show it from the beginning, just to get back over there. And it is important you be careful, because the checkpoint is all the way at the start of the level. So if it took you 40 seconds to get over there and you fall into a pit, you know, it's 40 seconds just lost. And again, these spin boosts are optional, Just do whichever ones you're actually able to get. Like you saw there, I was able to jump at a very specific time to get past the thrower. But if the beam guy hadn't destroyed that little platform he was on, it wouldn't have worked. Then here, if you want to, you can do a super jump punch and then stall yourself in the air a little bit in order to get past that helicopter guy. But it's not essential, and it really only works in that one scenario, so if he's not there, don't worry about it. Now, the outline guy that was down there earlier is usually in here, so you're going to have to deal with him. And you can actually get here really quick with a dive kick to get all the way to the bottom. You gotta space it just right. I did not space it just right. That's what it looks like if you don't space it right. But if you do it just like that, you'll be able to go all the way down here with extra speed. Now this area down here is really, really scary because it's right near the next checkpoint. So if you don't get it, or if you don't get around, you're gonna fall into the pit. That's gonna be huge time loss, which is no bueno. So either let him damage you so you get pushed onto the platform, or use a spin boost to just fly over him. And one way or the other, you'll land somewhere over here. And if you have low health, you can dive kick into these TNT and then pause and die. And this is what's known as Tailfin Skip. It does require a super jump punch, and it's really, really tricky to actually get the timing for that, just like this. Because something about the dash punch I haven't mentioned that, is that it uses your current speed when you're performing it. Which means you can do the same thing with a super jump punch in order to hit a very small segment of jumpable wall on the tip of this tail fin. You're really not supposed to get up here this way. This is like the hidden collectible. This is like the backwards route for it. Now when you get here, you'll fall through the floor if you don't jump. Well, the floor in quotes, but there is a floor here. You gotta jump. If you're on the nose of the plane, you gotta jump up. It's this level here, like basically planar with the top of the cockpit. And again, you know, this trick is not super easy. It's something you can do as a beginner, which will save about 15 seconds if you're able to get it within a couple tries. And it's also a lot safer compared to coming down here, doing all this, having to deal with this guy. And like all of this you can skip with one Tailfin Skip. And then if you don't do Tailfin Skip and you come down here, you can get up here with a wall jump, but you're often going to get hit by that thrower, which means death. But I'm going to show that way one more time. I highly recommend learning Tailfin Skip. I'll go actually more into it after I show this, just like a before and after almost. And again, if you know you're about to take damage, just turn around so you can at least get that forward momentum from it. And it's not always easy to turn around when you're trying to wall jump into a direction, so it's better to go in there with more health. One more time on this end, and then I'll go into more detail about Tailfin Skip. And if you need to, wait out this fire, because it'll mess you up, but good. Or if you don't want to deal with the precise wall jump, you can either do a super jump punch here, which saves a little bit of time, or you can go around, just do this, come up here, then you can spin through these blocks in order to get up here, and then wall jump off the side to get over here. But again, this is very slow compared to doing Tailfin Skip. So I highly recommend learning this. The way you do it is you stand on this particular block, line yourself up about here, then you hit the dash button, and you hit forward, and then the dash button, and then immediately after you perform the SJP. And so you get a very slow speed, almost completely vertical super jump punch, which gets you up onto this part of the plane. it usually takes 2 wall jumps and a dive kick to successfully get up this little corner. If you need to do more, it's fine. If you can make it with less, that's even better. But take care of this guy. Come up here, dive kick through this segment of breakable wall, and you'll be good to go. Sometimes this bouncing skull will come to the right and it'll chase you down. If that happens, just try to spin normally through him. But not on these TNT sections, of course. And then dive kick with the heart trail all the way down here. Let this guy damage you, because you have to break all this TNT anyway. And again, it can get pretty laggy because of all the squares. Show it one more time. Come up here, dive kick down. Let them damage you, and then jump into this TNT to blow it up a little faster. And you'll get through it just fine. I'm gonna take care of that guy just so I can spend a little more time talking about this. And then once you're over here, you can jump through and dive kick once you're past these falling blocks in order to get down a little quicker. It's no big deal. And if you were to land on the wrong side of this sword guy, you can do a full hop dive kick to clip around him. Or you can spin boost, which will give you a little bit of extra speed. Either or. But you can't make it with a normal full hop like you can with the outline guys, so you have to either clip with a dive kick or spin boost off of them. And then once you're through, there's another checkpoint down here. So this guy's gonna show up. That's not good. If you start from a death here and you run all the way through, you're gonna want to jump, wall jump, and punch as you're rising to take care of that bouncing skull. Because otherwise you're gonna be sitting there for quite a while and it's not gonna be great. And you can wall jump up these. It's a little precise, but it's something you can definitely learn with time. And if you do hit these falling blocks, they won't respawn. So you're gonna want to come over here. Just kind of play it safe. If you need to run to the left and jump glide, that's totally fine. And once you're down there, break these blocks and you're on your merry way. Now if you're starting out, I definitely recommend taking this area a little bit slow just because it's so far away from the checkpoint. Again, full hop, wall jump, punch. Let that block fall and then jump into the wall so you don't have to worry about the outline guy. Again, let it fall, jump, and then wall jump back over. And wall jump up. I usually just do a bunch of dive kicks here and that'll break the block a little early. So you don't have to deal with that. Then full hop dive kick. Make sure he's off the platform, and then if you need to, just stand over here and deal with the bouncing skull, because that can be pretty hairy. So that is the platforming segment. Now we're on to the boss, which is known as the Skellinator. This boss is known as a run killer. He's not very good at cooperating. He does a lot of damage. There's a lot of times where you can't actually hit him. So there's just a whole lot you gotta deal with all at once. But the main strategy here is to keep switching sides around him, like this, and he'll stay in the center of the plane. And then once he's kind of hovering like this, you can start hitting him with a little attack. And again, he's gonna make these big circular movements, and if you just keep switching sides, it'll keep him from going off the plane. But yeah, he does a lot of damage. So you're going to want to be very careful. The beams give you very little time to react, so if you're moving in that general straight line direction between you and him, it's going to be very tough to avoid. Like you saw there, I jumped out of the way of the beam and then got hit by the missiles. That's just how it is. But the beam pattern, they always fire at the same rate. So if you start to know like the actual time between each beam, you should be alright. But as you can see now, he's off the plane. We're kind of stuck for a while. And again, you're going to want to keep an eye out for that beam reticle, because you have very little time to react. And the further you are... Oops. So that can happen as well. When you get knockback in this game, if you keep getting more knockback, it'll amplify. And sometimes it can be caused by damage itself, which means you'll be stuck over on the side, and that is not good, because you'll get launched off the plane and have to start over. But again, this fight is really, really tough. Like, you're probably going to die to it a good number of times when you're playing your first couple of runs. Like, I died to it a couple times, and I'm world record holder at the moment. But yeah, like, you can see there's really no good way to take care of him in a fast manner, other than just switching sides. Unlike the bosses before, we can't... When he turns around, he still attacks, and he still moves. So you can't get him in a stun lock the same way you could with the first phase of Gunman back in level 1. If you absolutely need to, you can dodge mostly everything just by walking from one side to the other. But again, you can't do a whole lot when he's off the side of the plane. If you can do it, you can super jump punch to kind of confuse him into shooting his attacks in the wrong place. And that'll take care of him right but good. And you need to be really careful at the end of this fight, because if you get hit by the missiles after a certain point, you will die and have to start over. But for now, we're good. So coming up is one text box. Just take care of that. And then level 3 is done. Now we're on to the office. Now, right at the start of this level, there's about a 45-second time save, which has almost no difficulty to it. In fact, actually none. Once you've run through this room, you're going to want to pause, and you're going to want to die 3 times. Pay attention to the floor number. 35, 34, 33, 32. So what that did, it reloaded this room 4 times, and the way you normally reload the room is by running through it and then reaching it from another room. It's kind of like a loop almost. But in this situation, we were able to reload the room in an unintended way, which caused the floor number to drop to the current state it's at. And you can see there is a timer running on screen, and there is 5 minutes in parentheses on the splits. Now, you technically only have 5 minutes to get through this area, even though we're speedrunners, we'll do it in way less. But this is where you're going to get sent back if you were to die. You're going to want to dive kick down these stairs and then up, or down these stairs and through room transitions to be a little bit faster. Now this guy here has no pattern to him. He's just all about the hard reads. The times he shows up and the places he shows up within the room are random. So the best you can do is just hope you get lucky. There is a way to kind of stay safe by super jump punching and then dive kicking back down, but that's pretty advanced and isn't even all that fast. It looks something like this. And again, he's spawning in completely different places every time. Now that's pretty safe if you can do that. You can probably do something similar with full hop dive kicks, which I'll try to do now. I usually just go for it, to be totally honest. It will cost you 30 seconds if you die here, which is not great. You saw there I was able to hit him twice. For whatever reason, you can, on rare occasions, get a double hit. And I don't know why, but it's faster. So I'm certainly not complaining. So you gotta hit him 6 times, and each double hit will take one of those away, which saves a few seconds. Now for this guy, you're going to want to stand on the first line on this carpet here, right here, and mash standing punches. Now he takes 15 hits, so you can get about 13 out of the way, and if you need any more, just run through and do a dash punch. Now this can be pretty scary if you've taken a lot of damage on the Skellinator fight, but if you need to, you can do a full hop and dive kick up here to grab these hearts, like so. But it's really not a biggie. Now for the sheriff, you're going to want to stand on this line of the wall and do standing punches back and forth to make sure whichever direction he turns around you, you'll be able to deal with him. And then here is... These fights are actually pretty simple to explain. You run up and dash punch, like so. Oh, okay, that's not the simple version. But yeah, a death here is really not great, because they'll send you all the way back to Skellinator. And that's about a minute fastest possible way. But again, you're just going to want to jump and spin. You can spin through the lasers he shoots by mashing the spin button in the air, and you should be pretty safe if that's the way you want to do it. And there we go. We got a double hit on the last hit. Saves about 5 seconds, which is great. Again, we're going to stand... I went a little too far, but we can stand on the first line of the floor here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. And then 15 with the dash punch. Get through just fine. And then for the sheriff, again, stand on this line here. 1, 2, 3. Got him taken care of. You're going to want to dash as soon as you can in this room to try to get the dash punch in the right spot. So just run, dash punch. He'll take damage, but then you can dash punch again in order to take care of him really, really quick. So just dash punch once, take damage, and dash punch again, and you'll be set to jet. And now that's the 5-minute section done, we are now in what's known as 3:30, and it's the hallway. Now this is some pretty tough platforming, but if you're able to get a spin boost and you keep it, which you can do off of any of these enemies, you're able to outrun all of the danger. Huh. So that's what the room can look like when done fast. I definitely recommend getting the 2 spin boosts off of that thrower, because they'll just kind of stand still. Damage booster there, get 1 spin boost off of him. Sorry, this is really hectic. Kind of tough to explain at the same time. If you double tap the spin button there, you can boost through him. If you want to preserve your health, you can wall jump off of that so you don't take damage. It's a little bit slower, but a little bit safer. You can spin boost off the bouncing skull and the gunman there. And these are all scripted to show up at the same time. Then you can just jump over all the other enemies. Now, if you're able to, you can get a triple spin boost off of that outline man, which will let you skip the beams, and you'll be able to preserve that momentum for a couple of rooms. For whatever reason. You normally can't, but this one time you can. But again, just do whatever you can actually manage. Like, if you only get 1 spin boost, that's A-okay. And if you get none, as long as you keep running, you shouldn't have to worry about any of these enemies. But you just gotta keep moving, no matter what. Or you're gonna get caught in all these helicopter projectiles, and you're just gonna be not a happy camper. Like, this is just with 1 spin boost, so you can jump and glide. If you don't have more than 2 spin boosts stacked at the same time, I'd recommend turning around as you come across this gap, so you can get hit by the car instead of falling into the pit. And a dash punch can allow you to run through this area without having to stop and break the door. And once you're through, you can just do this. And look at all this momentum we're able to store. It's fine if you don't get it, but that is the 3:30 section right there. We're now at 2 minutes. And so, if you need to refill health, do it before this cutscene. And then when you hear this specific note, you can start running to the right, and the area will load. It's like the doo-doo-doo-doo. I'll show it again. Oh, I cannot show it again. When it goes doo-doo-doo-doo, that highest note, you can start running from there and make it just fine. But again, the more spin boost you're able to get here, the better you'll be able to get through this room. For whatever reason, you can full hop dive kick to get around this door without having to break it, which saves a little bit of time. And that one, apparently. There's some hearts down here if you really need them. But if you're going to get the hearts, I'd say break the doors so you don't get caught by the helicopter bullets as you run back over. And come down here, take care of this guy. That's odd, I didn't actually hit him. And once you're down here, you can dive kick into this part of the wall, which is actually a slightly faster way to get to the loading zone. So you don't have to worry about breaking the blocks or going through the room. And you saw there, we were able to break the door with a dash punch. which doesn't happen all the time, but if you do, it saves you a little bit of time from having to break it yourself, which is nice. So here, just get prepared to mash a whole lot. And then once this mashing is over, you're going to have a little bit of time where you can try to run out of the room. If you're able to do that, you're going to be able to save a few seconds. But if not, it's A-okay. Like you see there, we're really slow for some reason, so we can't make it. And then we have to wait for the TNT to drop so we fall out of the room, which is A-okay. But that is Office. You gotta really learn each section in isolation if you want to master it. And you're gonna want to practice getting spin boosts off of certain enemies and then adding more as you go. So here we're gonna start Benbo City. Now this first platforming segment's fairly straightforward. I wouldn't recommend getting too many spin boosts off of these guys just because it's not really worth it. Because you have to stop and go so much. But there's some I'd say go for, like that, and then full hop over. You can either take damage here, or you'll just land in the actual skull, and either of these is fine. But coming up is an infamous section called Bicycle, and if you've played this casually, you know this can be a toughie. Because if you hit a wall or an enemy the wrong way with this bike, you'll die in one hit and you have to start the whole thing over. So as you're starting out, I'd say jump over as many obstacles as you can, so you don't have to worry about bumping into them. Now this particular area lagged a lot on most people's setups, including my own. I'd recommend taking damage off of that guy because that small segment of floor you see there that's not filled in with white at the top, that's a pit and it'll kill you. But here, if you don't do anything except mash punch, you'll be able to get through just fine. Now here I'd mash jump and punch because these blocks can lag the game a whole lot. Like you see there, this game is chugging. And sometimes you can be punching, but it won't come out in time and it'll break the block anyway. Or break the block, but it'll still kill you, which means you have to do all of this again. And you're going to want to keep your hands off of the D-pad for this segment, because it can slightly adjust your bike speed, which can cause you to clip into certain things and insta-die. But again, dying is not great on this segment. So again, take the iframes from this guy to get over this pit safely. Then just mash punch to get through here, jump. And now just mash all 4 buttons at the same time. So we got through one just fine. And that looks good. Gonna do it one more time. Because, again, this segment is really tough. Even if you know exactly where to jump and exactly where to punch, you can still get kind of BS'd by certain things. But again, as long as you have an idea, you should be doing alright. If you get it within 3 tries, you're doing pretty well for yourself. Avoid the pit. Sometimes you'll take double damage there, which is not great, but it's better that than dying in one hit. And again, if your computer lags during this part, just mash all of the buttons at the same time. You don't need a lot of height to get over this gap, so even if you do a short hop right before, you should be fine. But that is Bicycle out of the way. Now we're onto the helicopter. I'm going to pause and refill my health. When you start this segment, you can run over to the left. You can move and jump during this cutscene because of the bicycle. And you can come over to where he is about to be and just start mashing punches. You can kind of jump off the bike as a double jump in order to keep dealing damage to him. Don't worry about your own health that much. This fight's fairly short. Now, as he's freaking out here, you can actually take him out. I'm going to restart the fight to show it off one more time. Again, he comes over here. That's no problemo. Come over here, deal some damage. You really just gotta turn around and just mash punches in order to deal maximum damage to him. Wall jump off in there if you can. If not, you can just stand in the middle, just wriggle back and forth. And as he's freaking out, you can still damage him. And then you'll be good to go. And that is the helicopter segment done. But we're not going to end the split yet because we're still on the bicycle. Now you're going to want to start holding right and pressing all of your dash buttons at the same time as you get to this segment. Because there's a glitch you can do coming up that will allow you to save about 15 seconds, and it looks hilarious. You're going to want to dash punch this hydrant, and then just mash jump on the bike. If you get it, we didn't get it. So that's what normally happens, and you wait on your side for a good while before you're able to stand back up. And that costs about 15 seconds. But if you time your inputs right, by which I mean it's basically RNG, just start mashing all of your available buttons, and there you go. We now have control during this segment. We're now sideways, and we're able to do any of our movement, which not only looks hilarious, but saves like 15 seconds. But we're not going to be able to keep this effect for very long, because as soon as this fight starts, we're going to have to pause and die for a very specific reason. Those red bones he drops the first time you load this fight will crash the game if you hit them the wrong way. But every other time, you're fine. You can continue the fight. So you're going to want to start this fight by just wailing on the barrier. Don't mind if you get hit once. Come over here. You're going to want to jump and spin, and while spinning, you can mash the buttons over and over again to get more hits in. And then once you're over here, you really don't have to worry about his attacks at all. But if you get the laser, you can turn around to get over a little bit faster. If you're attacking him, you don't have to worry about the hand. But if you are about to get hit by the hand, you're going to have to dash, or you will take damage. Again, I'll show it one more time. Again, jumping and spinning and then hitting attack a lot will be just fine. While the attacks are slow, you can stand in this little crevice here in order to avoid the big bone balls, as well as the hand. But if that's not the case, you're going to have to just jump over them. And you're immune to all attacks except the lasers while you're dealing damage to his skull, just by its positioning. Now, if you get in a situation like this, you can either run over here and wall jump, or you can SJP over it. But basically, you just got to take out the barrier as quick as can be, so you don't have to worry about it. One more time. Now, the fastest you can do this fight right now is a 2-cycle, which means you only have to break the barrier twice. But just do whatever you can. A 3-cycle is still fine. And yeah, sometimes the barrier will push you out like that into the bone ball, and there's not a whole lot you can do about it. Just kind of keep in mind of your health. Yeah, here's a 3-cycle. A little unfortunate, but it's still fast. Remember, once you're inside, inside the barrier, you just have to spin and then just continually hit the attack button while still in the air. And then jump a little bit after you land on the ground so you don't get a wall jump or you don't get a dash punch, because those are fairly slow options. But that's a barrier. I'm going to end this split after I finish mashing through these text boxes. For whatever reason, this cutscene can lag on some setups too, so if that happens, it happens. Just got to keep that in mind, really. Alright. So now there's about 40-ish seconds of cutscene, so if your hand hurts from mashing, shake it out. If you need to get something, if you need to grab like a quick sip of your beverage, do that. And you'll be just fine for this coming level. Now this platforming is really, really precise. Like this is far and away the toughest platforming in the entire game, with or without spin boosting. But I am here, of course, to help you get through it, so I'm going to talk about what we got to do first, and then what we got to do after that. But first, you are going to want to hit these spikes for a very good reason. If you don't hit him, that thrower is all the way over there, which means you have to deal with him. But if you hit the spikes and die, he'll be right under this death block, which means you can take care of him just fine. This wall jump that I just did there is a little precise. You need to be at full speed around this section of the platform. And then you only have a few frames to wall jump once you're actually touching that little bottom of the corner. But if you can't do that, just jump over the spikes I was about to say. Come down here. You are immune to the insta-kill spikes while you have iframes, just the same way you were with lava. So if that happens, then you can just kind of wall jump to save yourself. Then you're going to want to, of course, come up here. Now, you aren't going to want to dive kick down this pit because of the reason I just showed off. You have to be dashing under these red blocks or they will kill you. So come down here, kind of realign yourself. If you're not using spin boosting to get through... Oh, goodness, that was my mistake. Oh. Okay, that was my mistake as well. Yeah, you're really going to want to practice that wall jump, because it saves only a few seconds, but if you have to do this segment over and over again, because you die or something, it's very, very helpful to have just a little extra time saved. And again, you need to dash under these blocks. Don't jump. Don't do anything crazy. Just dash, and you'll be able to make it. Then come over here. If you were to get knocked into this area here, you can just jump up. Jump up, I was about to say. Again, just grab those hearts. Even if you don't need them, it's a good visual indicator of where the platform's about to be. And again, no big jumps, dash only to get past those red blocks. And then once you're up here, or if you're down here, you can just jump up here. Or if you're really feeling it, you can do a super jump punch to get to the second platform. But the amount of risk that has is not worth it. So I wouldn't recommend it unless you really need it to save time. Then dive kick down these lamp trails. Now, if this guy's going to be in the way, you got to deal with him. You see there he got hit by the insta-kill block. So just jump over it and dash. Do a little short hop to get... Oop. Yeah, this segment is really precarious, so... If you need to, slow down and take those spikes, those spike areas one by one. Just because, of course, dying is going to send you all the way back here. Whoa, whoa, whoa. And if you get caught down there, the outline guy will sometimes come down there to chase you. That's no good. So just let him show up, and then either get around him or punch him. And you can go through these more slowly, but you are going to have to start dealing with bouncing skulls if you take too much time. So find a balance that's right for you. You could try to iframe abuse with the bouncing skulls, but it's honestly just not worth it, even if it's much easier. Well, it's not worth it in the sake of time save, but if you can't get this past this segment at all because of these spike areas, just kind of stand here. They'll hit you, and you can just run right on through. And then down here, you're going to want to jump off at some point after the block falls. I usually jump down around here and then wall jump for safety. And here's another checkpoint. Now this fire bar is very not good. It's the only time we see anything like it in the game, for whatever reason. If you have iframes, you can just kind of run through it and get up here, spin through the thrower, and you're good to go. And then this jump here is really, really precise. I can try to show it all one more time. Because the edge of the platform is, the same color as the background, which makes it impossible to see. So you're going to be standing on what is essentially an invisible floor, and not a whole lot of it. And then once you're here, you got to jump left and immediately turn around in the air. The less momentum you have, the better. If you really need to, you can get hit by the thrower. Get hit by the thrower. And then use the iframes to wall jump off of there. I was trying to get more iframes off of him, but unfortunately couldn't do it. And of course, if he's in your way, you can't use him for iframes, so you really want to jump to his left. So you can get hit by the bones, and then... Yeah, it's not a very safe strat. Like, it can lose a lot of time, but if this jump is very difficult for you, it's a nice alternative. Unfortunately, you can't get up there with fire bar damage in enough time, so you just kind of gotta go for it, as is. And if you get the wall jump, of course you can just dive kick off, save yourself a little bit there, a little bit of hassle, a little bit of worry. Like you can see there, slight timing differences in this jump will make a big, significant impact. Now for these wall jumps, you absolutely want to... I forgot there were spikes there. You are absolutely going to want a full hop for these wall jumps coming up. Again, this segment is tough. I lose a lot of time on it on my own runs. It's not great. Jump down here. Full jump for all of these wall kicks. And then if you get up here and you need a dive kick, go for it. Stand on like the 6th or 7th one of these, and then just start spamming standing punches, which will get that worm guy out of your way. Come over here. Turn around if you need to in order to get past the beam guy there. It's better than having to wait it out. Now the vertical segment here is all about cycles. So if you pause right away, you can get a much better cycle for the platforms coming up. And one thing about vertical platforms is that if you're not all the way above them, you'll just kind of fall through. So there's 2 ways up here. Well, 3 ways. There's this wall jump, which is very, very precise, and if you miss the cycle, it doesn't save any time. There's this super jump punch. Sorry, this super jump punch. Oh my goodness. This SJP. There we go. Which will give you a little more height and make the wall jump just a smidge easier. But it is slower and does require a 1-frame trick, so do it at your own risk. And then the third way, which is the slowest way, is just coming through the normal way. Which means you gotta deal with a lot more enemies. So if your health is low, just restart the room with pausing and dying. Any of these will work to get you up there. As you get better at the game, you'll be able to catch earlier cycles. So don't worry about it for now. Now getting past this area, I would definitely say walk. Like, don't dash. And then the outline guy can be a real pain. There's real no good way around him, not even with a spin boost. So you're just... Alright, I'm gonna go the old-fashioned way. Oh. Come on. There we go. And again, going this way, you have to worry about this enemy, which you normally don't care about if you're playing the other way. But this particular one's really hard to get around, even if you're at the top of your jump. But just kind of let this guy hit all the TNT for you. And you're going to want to turn around in the event you do take damage. You'll at least get knocked toward the platform. And this platform is pretty tiny, so you might miss it a couple times. But you're definitely going to want to jump to catch it, because if you try to run, you will fall through the hole. And this jump here, it looks standard fare, but it's actually very scary. So if you have any kind of fear with it, make sure you mash the glide button, or the jump button in the air to glide over it. You'll be there, no problemo. You can wall jump up this tube. Well, you have to. And then you can get killed here just at checkpoint. Then wall jump up this tube. Catch this platform cycle. Wall jump off of there, do a short hop up there, dash, and then wall jump to get up here. And once you're up here, you can do one of 2 things. You can do a super jump punch to get all the way up here, or you can just, of course, jump up. You gotta worry about these enemies a lot, though, because if you get hit by one, you miss a cycle, for the most part. I'm gonna show this again. Pop up here, do a wall jump spin, short hop, wall jump. Generally speaking, if you do something that'll make you miss a cycle, you're not going to be able to catch it by doing anything else. So just kind of get up there whatever way works. I'll show it again. Up here. You can get up a little faster with super jump punches, but unless you get 2 in a row, you're not going to be able to catch an earlier cycle. And of course, this spike is a heart. So just come up here, work on these platforms. A little known fact is that they won't fall if you wall jump off of them, which means you can give yourself a couple extra chances to do this segment. And once they all reload, I'm going to show that you can wall jump off the sides of them, or the edge of the screen rather, in order to get up just a little quicker. Again, I'm going to let everything show up one more time. And when you wall jump off this edge of the screen here, you are absolutely going to want to hold right as soon as you leave that wall, because otherwise you'll get stuck on the side and it's going to be pretty slow. Like that. Then let this car guy... Oh, alright, so break those blocks, let the car guy show up. It helps to take damage here because there's just a lot of stuff going on in that one particular room. And that is the vertical segment, but we still have a little bit more to go. So in this room, before you do anything, pause and die. That'll skip a cutscene, and then once you're in this area, you can hit the control key, which is an accidental debug tool left in by the developers, but it's in the game, so we use it. Fortunately, this is still in newer patches. The dev thought it was hilarious the first time he saw it. So this fight used to be a whole lot worse, and now it's a whole lot better. Don't do anything in there that you don't have to. Like, don't pause and die more than once, because that'll glitch out the whole arena. So that is that area done. There's a big long cutscene, so I'm going to take this time to kind of stretch your hands out. You are going to have to start mashing in a second. You're going to have to do a lot of mashing. So just get prepared for that. At this point, you have most of the game behind you, but the run can still fall. If you're on a good pace run, it can still fall apart at this area. So you gotta play it carefully. Alright, so this room is pretty long. There's not anything to it. But do not, under any circumstances, pause and die in this room, or you'll soft block the game. Do not. If you pause for any reason, unpause the old-fashioned way, or else the whole game's gonna soft block. You're gonna lose your entire run. But just dash through this area. There's literally no obstacles, which is fine. But here we are. Now this fight is very, very tough. You will die in 3 hits. I'm not joking. But there is a method to how to get through it. You can see here that this Mega Man-like entity has so much more health than us, and is basically us better in every way. But what you can do is stand in place with the same strategies before. Let her walk into you. If you need to, you can hold left a little bit, but you want to space out the maximum distance of your punch in order to stay out of her range. Just like so. I'm going to restart the fight. And if you need to refill your health for any reason to restart the fight, make sure it's after the health bar is fully showed up, or else you will soft block the same way as before. And again, she's kind of walking into us. We're spacing out our punches. Just be very careful. It's like you can see there, we have just a little bit more range than her, which is just enough. And that's the clone fight. If I were able to pause, I'd show it one more time. But just keep in mind, you gotta figure out the maximum range for your punch, let her walk into you. If she stands in place for a long time, that is gonna be the slide attack, so be prepared to jump out of the way. A little more mashing here. And that's the clone segment over. Now we gotta deal with the final-ish boss, Skellyman. And this fight's going to start the same way we did the other one, except we're going to walk into him. Do the same strategy. Run up and just mash standing punch. And jump. If you don't do that, this is what's going to happen. He's going to start acting all sorts of crazy instead of just walking forward. So make sure you do these punches. This attack here, he'll always do 3 times the first time, and he'll always land directly below where he starts. But if you run and then jump when the lasers hit the floor, you'll be able to avoid it all. And again, just do the same thing as before. You'll probably take a couple hits from the beams, but that's a-okay. Again, just run up, punch in his face, let him do his beam attack. Remember, run to the side and then jump back in. You'll be able to stay safe. In addition, if you're jumping, you'll be able to avoid the beams just a little bit better. Because those beams give you literally no time to react. So you're going to want to stand right around here when he spawns. Because these skulls here for Phase 2, this is what's known as the high spawn, which is not the best pattern you can get. You're going to start the fight over to show. Now when that happens, you can stand in the middle and take out each Chaos Skull with 3 hits. And if you stand in the right spot, you can take most, if not all of them out before you have any worries about, you know, actually him starting the phase. So just stand here. There's high phase again. Now high phase is much more difficult to deal with than low phase, but it's not the worst one you can get. Of course, going to restart so we don't accidentally end the fight. Because this is still technically Bonehell, so if we were to leave the game and restart, we'd have to do the entire level over again, which is not good. So Phase 2, hopefully he cooperates. He keeps doing high spawn. Like, high spawn is not normally this common, but it seems to be happening an awful lot. So when he comes back down, we're going to hit him a couple more times. Now this should be low spawn. Alright, and you can see here, we're able to just stand right here. My spacing was off by a hair, but you are able to hit at least most of the skulls for massive damage. And the others you can chase down as they come at ground level. Now there is a worse spawn, which doesn't allow you to do the quick kill at all, which I'm going to try to get right now. If not, I'll just explain it and then we'll move right along. Alright, this is high spawn. Again, just jump up, 3 hits. You can see there he just kind of dips a little bit lower as the fight starts. That's because his collision is wrong. So the spawn I was talking about is known as invisible spawn. Depending on the time he tries to warp, what can happen is that he will show up in the middle, invisible and invulnerable, which means you can't do the quick kill at all. It's better at that point to just start the fight over, because otherwise you're going to have to chase him all the way down. But that is Skellyman Phase 2. You want to be here in the center jumping so you can grab all the hearts he drops. You don't get it refilled between fights, for whatever reason. So Phase 3 is much, much easier. Don't worry. And there's one good way to take care of him. And there's several ways that aren't good, which we can still take care of him. So the first attack he's going to do is the swooping motion. He's going to do it at least twice. We're hoping for twice, because it's not a good attack. So run to the right side of the screen. Do standing punches right here. Alright, and we did get the stomp attack, which is the best attack we can get. Now, when he does the stomp attack, you're able to just kind of stand in place and just mash punch. I believe it's position dependent, but we haven't actually tested. You can see there, we're just able to get massive damage off on him. And if I had done it one more hit, it would have been the end of the fight. But depending on your position, he will do different attacks. Like this is known as the Spikes attack. You can super jump punch and avoid basically all the damage he would have dealt. That's kind of a weird one. It's not supposed to work like that, but it's basically free to dodge. If he gets to the other side and does this laser, you're going to want to jump up and wall jump. Just like that. But again, run over to the side. Do standing punches as he swoops. And that's the laser attack. You can wall jump and hit him up during that if you're on the same side. Or you can stand here and wait for the stomp. And then he'll do the swooshes. And that's the fight. So any momentum, just like the end of the Gunman cutscene, any momentum you have will be stored as you do your final attack. So if you're all the way on the side and you do an attack that gives you backwards momentum, you'll be able to slowly slide over toward the wall, which is pretty nice. Not been getting good luck with this particular fight. Yeah, you see that there are just sometimes you get really bad patterns. But if you're over to the right, if you start on the right, he'll swoop on the right, which gives you the best chance to get the good stomp. But sometimes he will just do whatever he wants. Again, you can use the spikes as a good instance, or you can use the SJP to get over the spike attack pretty well. Okay, this is all dependent on which attack he does, which you can't necessarily control. There's the spikes, super jump punch, take care of him. If not, you can just kind of full hop and then stall yourself, get a few more attacks in. And then if he stomps like that, you're doing alright for yourself because you can still go over there and hit him. And that is that. I just got one thing to check real quick. Sorry about this. Oh. Yeah, sorry, I just had one thing come up that was kind of urgent. But now we're back. If our momentum was slightly different, we would have been able to just slide into the loading zone here, but it was not. Gonna refill health by touching the spike pit, and I'm gonna turn around so I have not only a sick moonwalk, but a little more momentum going into this. Now this is a tough segment, especially at the end of a run. So your inputs have to be very, very particular. Unlike that. Just run the heck up. You can do 2 spins, then it'll take care of that guy. Then dive kick and wall jump up here. Let yourself fall a bit and then dive kick so you can actually get a good angle through those blocks. Then dive kick around the swordsman and then take care of him. Jump across these. Now that little floating skull can be actually pretty dangerous. I didn't get a chance to explain that one, my bad. So as you're running, you're going to want to full hop, spin, dive kick, wall jump, wall jump, wall jump, dive kick again, spin if you need to, full hop, dive kick, 2 spins, dash, 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 short little hops to get around here, then turn around and jump here, full hop. These TNTs you can either deal with very short hops, but that can happen, or you can do full hops and glide a little bit in order to go every other. Whichever works best for you, I'd recommend. I personally go for the full hop and cover 2, just because a short hop can very easily go very wrong. Again, just do this. You can wall jump up there. It saves no time, but if you think you're going to hit the blocks, that's what you can do. That can also happen. If you fall in like that, you can save yourself by wall jumping between TNT blocks. But if they're about to explode, of course, not going to do you much good. There's no floor, so you can't get up there with an SJP or anything either. And again, just deal with these. Oh no. But if you're going to wall jump, you have to be prepared for it. Otherwise, things are not going to go well. Again, you're going to get much better with this movement, but this is probably the most movement-intense section of the entire game. So find what works for you and stick with it. Because spending half a second is much better alternative than just losing an entire run in this segment. You see there, I was able to save myself, but then I didn't get the dash off in time, which meant I couldn't jump to the other blocks. It's a really tough segment, so you just kind of got to take it as is. And again, you can get backwards spin boosts, which can send you into the spikes, so be very careful when dealing with those enemies. If you need a dash punch, just go for it. See there what I meant about the floating skull? He can just knock you in, and it's just over. But you can safely spin through him without any kind of backwards knock or backward momentum. So if you need to, just do that. His spawn shows up at different times though, so you gotta be prepared if you see him. Like here, we're safe. Can run just right on across. Full hop glide once or twice to get across these. Dive kick down. Let this guy pass. Absolutely don't let any of these enemies stand here, because you can get knocked into the spikes with super easy. With super ease, you can get knocked into the pit. That's not good. You can get a spin boost off of these two skulls here. I'm going to show it one more time. It saves a couple seconds, and it's generally helpful to do if you need a couple extra seconds to PB. Especially since it's, you know, wide open space, no obstacles, and just two enemies, which both die in one hit. But if that's something that you can't get down very consistently, don't go for it at the end of the run. Of course. Just come across. Oh, that was close. That was heck of close. That was incredible, actually. Like, that's the kind of save that you shouldn't expect to happen. Don't think you can save yourself with damage every single time. There you go. It could be a little faster to dash punch here, but you can also glitch off the side. So just keep walking until you lose control of your character. Now we're on the final boss. Now this fight can be really tough casually. There's a beam attack he can do that'll knock you out immediately sometimes for no real reason. But we can skip that with one very particular trick. So when this fight starts, we're going to pause and die. Not to avoid a crash, but to get a little quick kill, like this. So what I did there is when you pause and die in this room, and only this room, your spawn starts way up in the air. And because you're in the air, it gives you time to start a dive kick. And when you dive kick, you can wall jump off of the enemy's face, because it counts as jumpable wall for whatever reason. So there you go. That's phase one. Grab the hearts if you need them. Run over to the sides so the actual fight starts. And here you're going to want platforms 2 or 3 to rise up, so you can take them out with ease. Because otherwise you're going to have to deal with platforms that you can't necessarily work with. But anything 2 or 3 that has a space in between should be fine. And if you absolutely need to, you can kind of take damage off the sides of the platform to clip back in. But you got to be careful about your health. And of course you can super jump punch to get up there a little faster. So I'm going to restart the whole fight. You got to be careful, because if you die on phase 1 or phase 2, you'll have to start at phase 1. Normally a big deal, but because we have the quick kill, it's not that much time. You're gonna want to practice how to do the dive kick wall jumps. I'd recommend pressing down forward and then pressing the punch button only every other jump. So this is what you're normally supposed to do. And that beam can, on occasions, just insta-kill you. So we try to avoid all that by just doing this little trickaroo. And the amount of time it saves and the amount of risk you no longer have to deal with is just so immense. There's a lot of hearts that spawn from the red floating skulls, so if you need to take damage to get up a little faster, by all means go for it. You can get in about 7 or 8 hits with one jump up here. And then even more tossed in if you are able to super jump punch. Then when you're here, run right around to the left, and you'll hop on the bicycle. Actually, gonna show this fight one more time. You can look at my input cam if you need assistance with the timing. But that is that. Run up here. If you can't super jump punch, you're gonna have to wait a little longer for platform cycles. But usually you should be alright. Depending on how it goes, you can, on rare occasions, get, like, inside him for a second. There's, like, a little section of platform behind his hitbox, but you can't always get to it. See, this is the danger zone. That was the dangerous zone. The zone of the danger. So again, just start it all over. If you need to play it safe on Phase 2, by all means play it safe. This is like the last actual thing you do in the run. The platforms will shake a little bit before they start coming over, so it's a good indicator for which ones are about to show up. I'm gonna try to get this heart. Got it. Didn't actually save any HP. But that's the boss taken care of. You shouldn't have to worry about the lasers too much because you can deal so many punches in so little time. But hop on the bicycle, and then you're going to ride it up. You can mash jump during this cutscene for some reason. You're going to want to hold right and jump as this cutscene's about to end, right around here, which will allow you to get over to the boss's face a little faster. Any attack will kill him. Any attack will perform this scripted sequence here. So anything you do will be fine. If you can time it, you can go for a dive kick, but the amount of time that saves compared to the risk of landing on the ground is just not worth it. So for this segment, it's the final thing in the game. Time is going to end when we punch this skeleton, and the lightning appears on screen. The lightning specifically is the cue to end the run. So time is now. I think something's up with this version of the game and the music's gonna glitch, but other than that, we should be fine. You can watch older runs of mine to see how the music's actually supposed to sound. It's a really nice track, but this is not gonna set the mood. But the point stands. This, yeah, there we go. This boss music from the barrier fight of all places, which is not supposed to play in this part. But that's the game. That's any percent. At this point, you know, shake your hands off, take a big swig of your beverage. You've done it. You've beaten Benbo. You've done the run. So if there's any questions you have about the run in particular, you can ask me in the comments, you can ask on the speedrun.com forum, or you can ask in the Benbo speedrunning Discord, all of which will be linked in the bottom of the top of the description below. You can also find timestamps to each segment in the event you need to use those. So don't worry. And that is that. If you want to learn this game, and if you have any interest whatsoever, I highly recommend joining the Discord. There's not a lot of us in there right now, but we're a growing community. If you want to be part of that, now's the better time than ever. But that is Benbo Quest. Thank you for watching, and good luck on the runs.